How to manage expectations when it comes to awakening and realization. One thing I see people really struggle with is actually a very simple thing. And this is both inside and outside of this topic of awakening or spirituality. And that is expectations. Simple day-to-day expectations. For instance, you think you're going to get off work at 5 p.m. and something happens and it looks like you're actually going to get off work at 5:30. It's actually amazing how much strain this puts on our nervous system, how much frustration is associated with this, even before we know for sure that what we expect is not going to happen exactly the way we're intending it to. We start to have a reaction. We start to feel almost a dread build up because things aren't going to go the way we wanted them to. Even in this example where you may have to work a little longer or whatever, this is a minor inconvenience, all things being equal, or really no inconvenience at all. But in our mind, this can become a really big deal. And for some people, it will ruin your whole day. You might go home angry, get in an argument with somebody. Now, I'm somewhat exaggerating this, but I really do think this happens. And it all really boils down to a very simple mental process. And that is, we imagine things a certain way, and then we hope they'll go that way. And we convince ourselves that by imagining it going that way, we caused it to go that way. And this feels great when we feel a feeling of accomplishment or like we've done something. But it feels horrible when that doesn't go the way we wanted it to. Why? I think it's simply because this reminds us of something we never want to feel: helplessness. We never want to actually notice when the way we're imagining things going don't go that way. We want to overlook them, and when it keeps presenting itself right in front of us in a way that we can't ignore it, we feel a little out of control. We feel a little like we don't have agency. This is what I think is at the root of those uncomfortable feelings around having our expectations not play out the way we were hoping they would. Why do I point this out in this video? Because I think this is happening all day long in most of our minds. As long as there's entanglement with thoughts, identification with thoughts, this process of imagining how things are going to be 1 minute from now, in the next conversation, in the next room we walk into, or 5 minutes from now, 30 minutes from now, at the end of the day, I think these expectations are ongoing. I think the mind is constantly making these images. And to the degree that we're binding identity into that, we start to feel a few things. One is trapped, stuck. That one often escapes our notice, but time is a prison. When we're binding our identity into what's going to happen 15 minutes from now, 30 minutes from now, an hour from now, and all of our attention's tied up in that, and our will is tied up in that, that's a very small space to live. It's a very enclosed and rigid place for identity to find itself. But as long as it's finding itself there, as long as identity structures are intact and we believe that that's who we are, then by the rules of that prison world, that internal mental prison world, the only thing we can really do to try to make ourselves feel better is try to feel like we have more control. And how do we do that? Through thought. So we think by imagining things more aggressively, more distinctly, we're going to create them. We're going to solidify some possible future, which again can feel really good when that seems to happen. But when things don't go your way, which inevitably many things aren't going to go your way in the way we're speaking, in this world of expectation, then there's going to be something uncovered, an emotion that we often don't want to feel. And I think helplessness is a good word for it. So the deal with this, and why I'm talking about it, is that all of these moments of having our expectations dashed are pointers to this emotional experience. And underneath any emotional experience, at the root of emotion work, really is work on belief. It always comes down to a belief or a set of beliefs that are opposing one another. So if we're able to inquire into this, I believe that if I don't get things to go the way I want them to today, tomorrow, whenever, I believe that I have to be unhappy. I have to have a reaction to that. It has to make me miserable. It causes me to lash out. It causes me to have a bad day. These are the beliefs. And if we're willing to see them, first feel that emotion that we want to avoid, which is helplessness or frustration, impatience, but just be willing to feel and acknowledge those emotions. Then we can get under them. And by under them, I mean recognize what is the belief that's driving the resistance pattern to the emotion itself and to the experience of life. Once we've fully addressed and embodied and understand and integrated the energy of these beliefs, then we stop resisting the emotion. And when we stop resisting the emotion stops being a monster. It becomes gentle, not a problem, not causing polarity in consciousness constantly. So these moments where our expectations don't come to fruition aren't a curse. They're perfect moments to inquire. If you can't do it in the moment because you're too busy, too triggered, whatever, sit with it later when it comes back to you in your mind, when you're reliving that experience. That's a gift to you from the universe. It's saying, okay, let's look at this in a different way. Let's look closer. Let's feel into it. And then see what beliefs are underlying. And once the beliefs are clearly seen, felt, and understood, that's when identity drops out. That's when identity drops out of the beliefs. Then the beliefs can just be seen as thoughts, not sticky, and they can just relax, float away. Then we stop being so preoccupied with thoughts, emotions, emotional repression, the future, expectations, and we're freed up to experience the infinitely vast and deep knowing of the everything, no thing experience of this, now, here, without any labels. Pure experience. Every space being one space, all pasts and futures here. The access is infinite. The intimacy is infinite. The contact is infinite. There's no center to it. The center is everywhere. This is enlightenment. And this is your birthright.